Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Hello, thank you for tuning in to Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. This is your news at noon. Kevin Smith here.
And I'm Kayla King.
Let's tell you the top stories we are tracking. ExxonMobil to sell North Sea assets for over $1 billion to focus on Guyana. 4 decades of oil production created neither prosperity nor fiscal stability for Angola. Guyana must take heed, says advisors from IEEFA. And $150,000 was COVID relief, not Christmas bonus, according to the ERC chairman. And Transparency International writes UN seeking to end all anonymous shell companies. Meanwhile, get the understanding, the local draft content policy part 7, oil companies would have minimum of 5 years to ensure 60% of IT and communications contracts go to Guyanese. Do stay tuned.
Introducing the new Digital Prime bundles. Better than anything we've ever offered before. More music on D-Music. More messaging on BIP. More radio streaming on Go Loud. More storage on Bello. More control on My Digital app. With the new Digital Prime bundles, it's never been easier to get more digital experiences. Plus, extra data. Get 30 gigabytes with a 7-day Prime bundle for only $2,000. So much data, so much fun. Buy in My Digital app today. Digital, better together.
And now for the news in detail. ExxonMobil disclosed yesterday that it had signed an agreement with High-Tech Vision through its entirely owned portfolio company, NEO Energy. This is for the sale of most of its non-operated upstream assets in the central and northern North Sea of the United Kingdom. The sale price of more than $1 billion is subject to closing adjustments and has an additional upside of approximately $300 million in contingent payments based on the potential for an increase in commodity prices. On the heels of this announcement, Neil Chapman, Senior Vice President of ExxonMobil, said that the company's most prized resources are in Guyana, the U.S., Permian Basin, and Brazil. He added that ExxonMobil is focused on increasing earnings potential and generating strong cash flow to fund future capital investments, reduce debt, and remain a reliable dividend.
And now let's tell you, with the monetization of its 9 billion barrels of oil equivalent resources, Guyana's leaders hope to raise the standard of living of its people, cut the nation's debt, and create a sovereign wealth fund with significant deposits. But the unfortunate reality that confronts the new oil-producing state is that it is in a weak position to accomplish these goals. This is according to Tom Sanzillo and Jared Kreeft, 2 financial and energy advisors attached to the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. Now, to cement their argument, Sanzillo and Kreeft urged all Guyanese authorities to consider the case of Angola, which has hosted world oil developers for the last 25 years and is a cautionary tale for nations hoping to cash in on oil and gas development.
And in other news, while the average Guyanese were receiving a COVID-19 cash grant of $25,000, the above average, commissioners at the Ethnic Relations Commission benefited from COVID-19 relief to the tune of $150,000. The chairman of the ERC, Reverend John Smith, made his disclosure as he refuted claims that the commissioners had benefited an excessive $150,000 as a Christmas bonus for commissioners. Smith's clarification that the payment was in fact COVID-19 relief comes on the heels of damning utterances made by an ERC Commissioner Haji Roshan Khan.
And moving on, Transparency International, a non-governmental organization formed to end corruption, has written to the UN General Assembly with an appeal for them to set a new global standard for transparency in company ownership. The organization said that almost 700 signatories from 120 countries endorsed the appeal. The list consists of renowned academics and research centers, companies and business executives, civil society groups, and activists, as well as several government agencies and public officials. Part of the petition states, and I quote, "For decades, as scandal after scandal has demonstrated, anonymous shell companies have been used to divert public funds, channel bribes, and conceal ill-gotten gains as part of corruption and money laundering schemes stretching across borders."
In today's installment of Understanding the Draft Local Content Policy, we will continue with the various jobs the government proposes to secure for Guyanese so as to ensure they benefit to the maximum extent from the oil sector. According to the document, the government is proposing to give oil companies a minimum of 5 years to give 60% of their contracts for information technology and communications services to Guyanese. The government noted that most of the contracts for software support services, computer-based modeling, hardware installation support, user support and help desk services, and telecommunication installation and support services should go to locals.
It is now 12:07 in Guyana, and you're listening to Kaieteur Radio. This is your news at noon. Coming up after the break, Speaker cautions media against reporting on heckling in Parliament, says reporters open themselves to be sued. And tit for tat continues in Parliament, takes away from debate on actual budget. Meanwhile, suspect confesses to killing bird man found at supermarket. Dead man identified as a resident of Enmore. And interesting news as twins give birth minutes apart at New Amsterdam Hospital. Do stay tuned.
Guyana is now a full-fledged oil-producing nation. But how much do you know about this valuable yet finite resource? On our radio program, Guyana's Oil and You, we strike at the heart of every issue with informed views and credible data. The time is now for you to arm yourself with insightful knowledge on your oil wealth.
Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. Speaker of the National Assembly, Manzoor Nadir, yesterday cautioned operatives against publishing instances of heckling during the 2021 budget debates, as it opens them up to the possibility of being slapped with a libel suit. His pronouncement comes on one day after Kaieteur News published a report on the distasteful commentary overheard during the opening day of the budget debates by identified members of the National Assembly. We were informed that in the National Assembly, whatever comments or heckles are made while a member of Parliament has the floor is public record. However, commentary from the MPs while sitting are not.
The National Assembly convened for the second day of budget debates at the Arthur Chung Conference Center, with some improvement on the vulgar heckling, which took place on the opening day. However, some members of Parliament continue to take away from the purpose of the budget debates to question the integrity of their opponents and making pronouncements on whose time in government was better, whether it was the last 5 years of APNU-AFC or the 23 years prior under the PPPC, while MPs like Minister of Agriculture Zulfikar Mustafa and AFC leader Kemraj Ramjatan devoted their speeches to Budget 2021, others almost completely ignored it.
And moving on, Marco Swidat, a 22-year-old suspect in the murder of the man whose burnt body was found in a compound of Huaxin supermarket, has reportedly confessed to detectives that he is guilty of setting the deceased on fire after an altercation with him. Swidat, a 4th Street Fowlis East Coast Demerara, was nabbed by police on Tuesday, a day after he was captured on CCTV camera having an argument with the man.
It was an absolute joy for twin sisters Amisha Tuesday Grant and Amelia Latasha Tuesday yesterday, as they gave birth 13 minutes apart at the New Amsterdam Hospital. The infants Cassidy Miracle Grant, a girl, and Myron Kingsley Rajgopal, a boy, were delivered at 9:30 hours and 9:23 hours, respectively. The twin sisters were admitted to the hospital on February 23, 2021, where they welcomed their healthy babies. The infants weighed in at 3 kgs each. Regional Health Officer Dr. Vishalya Sharma and the Medical Superintendent Dr. Vasana Henry expressed their joy that the twins chose the institution to deliver their babies. Hampers were presented to the ecstatic new mothers, and gratitude was expressed to Dr. Raphael Reuter and midwife Leah Clark, who delivered both babies. Mothers Amisha and Amelia were thankful to the Almighty for allowing them to have the experience together.
Very interesting story there, Kayla. At this point, we have come to the end of our newscast, but we head over to the COVID-19 update after the break.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
With the time moving on to 12 hours 12, we now present to you your COVID-19 update. Coronavirus cases are now at 113.2 million, whereas deaths are at 2.5 million, and in the case of recoveries, 88.8 million.
The Ministry of Health recorded 3 more deaths as a result of COVID-19 complications. The deaths took the nation's fatalities from the virus to 193. The Health Ministry on Wednesday recorded only 5 new COVID-19 cases. The new cases were all recorded in Region 4. This takes the overall number of confirmed cases to 8,457. Further, 387 patients are in home isolation, 37 in institutional isolation, and 7 in the ICU at the Infectious Disease Hospital. 34 recoveries were also recorded, taking the total number of recoveries to 7,834.
Now, coming from CNN, the U.S. FDA says the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine meets requirements for emergency use authorization. A committee will meet Friday on next steps. Coronavirus variants will likely drive a new wave of transmission in the U.S. come spring, infectious disease experts say. The World Health Organization has reported a 6th consecutive week of declining global coronavirus cases.
And that just about brings us to the end of today's news at noon. But before we go, let's head over to the page 7 of the Kaieteur News that is dedicated to being blunt. After Kaieteur News exposed the unacceptable behavior of Guyana's legislators, the Speaker of the House yesterday reminded reporters that he gave permission for them to be inside the room during the proceedings. He then cautioned the media operatives about how they should report on the proceedings in the National Assembly when it comes to the utterances of so-called honorable members of Parliament. Yet, we are still to hear these same honorable members be reprimanded for vulgarly disgracing the highest legislative office of the land. This is Guyana, beautiful Guyana. And now we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I am Kevin Smith.
And I am Kayla King.
Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's Newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 224